Evet arkadaşlar, kanalıma hoş geldiniz. Bugün Sayın Ahmet Tabet'le konuşacağız. Yani malware ve TST mühendisliği hakkında konuşacağız. Ben tabii ki önce Türkçe konuşacağım, sonra İngilizce konuşacağım. Kendisi cevapladığı anda ben bunu Türkçesini söyleyeceğim. Ondan sonra İngilizcesini Ahmet Tabet'le birlikte konuşacağız, edeceğiz. O zaman başlayalım. So, Mr. Ahmet, thank you for accepting my invitation. As I said, normally I share Turkish videos featuring constant reverse engineering, exploitation. However, today I invite you as an exceptional individual, with expertise in malware analysis and reverse engineering. So I believe this video will be exceptional and really enjoyable. Thank you, Emmer. So would you mind to introduce yourself and share your educational background, if you don't mind?
Sure. First, thank you for the invite. Thank you for inviting me here. My name is Amr Thabit, and I am a malware researcher since around 12, 15 years. I lost count now. And I have worked in Semantic, which is, I was working in the attack investigation team. So I was monitoring the attacks that is done by like the national intelligence teams or group hackers for hire, or most of the most professional hackers around the world were monitoring their attacks, their malware, analyzing their malware, understanding what they are doing and how they're evolving through the time. I'm also the author of Mastering Malware Analysis book, and I've been a speaker and trainer in some of the top conferences, including Black Hat, DEF CON, Hack in Paris, and others.
Evet. Kendisi DEF CON ve Black Hat'te konuşmacı olarak katılmıştı. Zaten 2 tane kitap paylaşmıştı. Mastering of Malware Analysis. 2 ciltten oluşuyor aslında. Ve dünyada böyle sofistik hackerla çalışmış, aynı zamanda oradan tecrübe edinmiş. Bundan dolayı kendisi zaten bu konuda bilgili. O zaman sualimize geçelim. So, Mr. Hammer, I have a lot of questions for my subscribers. There are actually a lot of questions, but I picked 10 questions. So, let's kick off with basic questions like, what sparked your interest in malware analysis and reverse engineering?
What part interested me at the beginning?
Yeah, right.
Well, it's not something I talk about a lot, but it was the other side, the malware development, that was interesting me at the beginning, and the underground hacking world. I didn't stay much in that, but what moved me to the next phase is that I like the idea of understanding how program works, and like how that developer thought about building his program, his virus, or whatever this. And that kind of interested me. Later on, I found that malware analysis is one of the type of the projects, or one type of fields that you as a one person can do a project, release it, and have a big impact with it. And this is something you don't see in a lot of fields. I was a game developer before, or I was trying to be a game developer. And to write one game that has any impact, I need a team, a graphic designer, a game designer, a coder, another coder, game engines, like so many different things. But to make something in the virus, in the reverse engineering and malware analysis, you can do by being one person, you can do a big impact. And that was my story with Stuxnet, which was a known malware. And then I was interviewed in different newspapers just by analyzing a small part of it. And then I saw the potential of how I can build a career in that field. And then it became my thing later on.
Yani kendisi bu alanı niye seçti? Çünkü yani çok sofistik bir alan olduğu için, çok özel bir alan olduğu için ve kendisi kendince bir şeyler yapmak istedi. Zaten birçok Stuxnet malware'le deneyimledi. Bundan dolayı hoşuna gittiği için de zaten bunun içine daldı. Ve reverse engineering dediğimiz, yani TST mühendisliği dediğimiz olay aslında zaten yalnız yapılan bir iş olduğu için, yani genelde yalnız yapıp bunun işte felsefesine inip nasıl çalıştığını, nasıl yazıldığını, bunu anlamam için benim için daha iyi olduğunu söylüyor kendisi. Ve zaten kendisi yıllarca emek verdiği için aslında e, sektörel anlamda kendisini geliştirme noktasında zaten belli bir ulvi noktaya ulaşmış. Zaten kitapta yazmıştı zaten. Bundan dolayı aslında malware analizi yolculuğu böyle başladı. So the second question actually. So I want also talk about myself. So 2 years ago, I just start pen testing. So it was not a cup of tea, you know. I just want to know about reverse engineering. It was my first part. So I just started to learn about reverse engineering methodology. So there were a lot of resources. GitHub, Discord community. So CTF challenges, it was real nice and it was real enjoyable. So I started to learn with Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. There were also rooms about malware analysis. So I thought maybe I can switch. I can switch my career to reverse engineer or malware analyst. So, when I saw myself in the mirror and recognized my potential, it was great to switch it. So, let me ask you the second question. How did you get started in this field, and what advice do we have for beginners who want to get into this field?
First, it was great to know your story, and I applaud you for taking that step, and it is smart way. What helped me in malware
Thank you.
What helped me in malware analysis at the beginning was, well, there's two sides that you need to learn. The malware analysis, understanding malware, their techniques, their tactics, the APIs, all of these different things. But the second is the art of reverse engineering. And this is where most of the people get frustrated with, and they it is it's an art more than a technique, more than a science. You need to like, okay, well, where I can tackle this different malware, and it is somehow it's calling there and moving this direction and don't know how to follow up with it. You need to be patient in yourself, and you need to analyze and practice a lot. That is the most important part. There are some books and some stuff I can recommend. There is a book that it's a very old book, but at the same time, it's really, really good. It's called Reversing, The Secrets of Reverse Engineering. That's the book I started with. And that is the one that's, moved me from hating reverse engineering to actually start understanding it. It's still available, but some of the things will be super old, like Windows 2000. There's also another thing called a website called crackmes.de. That was a really good website for like different levels, and everyone has like a sample that you can analyze. Some of them are simple, some of them are really difficult. In general, you need to reverse a lot. I always say that try to find like a really good tutorials and follow up with them. People who have reversed something maybe on YouTube or something, but the simple ones. Take from the easy ones to the harder ones. It's very hard at the beginning to know if this malware is easy or difficult. That's what we try to do in our course, for example, like, okay, we need to find the easier, harder, and then harder. But even if you don't follow a specific course, you can look at YouTube and find the easier ones, the ones that the instructor or the YouTuber say, that's an easy one to reverse. We can start with that. And then you go from there. Also, one of the things that helped me is writing assembly code. That is kind of, a lot of people don't like writing code, but at some point, this is going to help you a lot reading and understanding others, even being the mindset of the developer who wrote the malware in the first place. There is tutorials called Izillion tutorials. I can share the links as well. It was really good tutorials on writing basic malware. I don't know if still the coders work, but there is a way to make it work at some point. And they are really good tutorials, and you can understand how malware thinks, how malware developers thinks. And that's what helped me start at the beginning. Slowly, I started analyzing more and more and more, getting stuck a lot. but at some point it starts to work. And once you tackle that, once you feel that finally it clicks, then things go smoothly after.
Evet, aslında kendisi Secret of Reverse Engineering kitabıyla başlamış. Secret of Reverse Engineering aslında belli bir temel oluşturduğunu söylüyor. Ben de katılıyorum aslında. Çünkü Secret of Reverse Engineering ben de başlamıştım ve zaten belli bir başlangıcı size sunuyor. Crack Me diye bir platform varmış. Crack Me'de zaten böyle başlık başlık yani kolaydan başlıyorsunuz aslında. Zaten seviyesi de belli. Mesela Crack Me sitesine gittiğinizde zaten Sempo diyor ki işte Sempo'nun dediği şey şu: ben basitim. Ben basit dediği anda siz onu reverse ettiğinizde, yani testte mühendislik yöntemiyle siz bunu yaptığınızda aslında kodu daha iyi anlamış oluyorsunuz. Şimdi kod kısmını iyi anlamamız lazım. Çünkü kod yazan kişi hangi mindsette bu kodu yazmış? Şimdi bu kodu yazıldığında yani adam mesela C Sharp veya işte C veya assembly ile yazmış. Şimdi bu adam bunu yazdıysa siz o kodunu anlamanız lazım. Çünkü kodu anlamadığınız zaman siz de onu anlayamazsınız ve nasıl analiz edildiğini, işte dosya ne yaptığını anlayamazsınız. Ondan dolayı sürekli siz reverse engineering challenge'ı yapmanız lazım. Yani hele bu Crack Me sitesinde zaten linkini ben de paylaşacağım. Crack Me sitesine gittiğinizde bir sürü böyle şey var. Dosya mevcut. O dosyayı siz analiz ettiğinizde şunu anlayacaksınız. Elbette siz hataya düşeceksiniz, yapamayacaksınız ama sürekli yaptıkça belli bir noktaya geleceksiniz. Aslında Amo Efendi bundan bahsediyor. Bir de tabii ki şey yazmak, hani kendiniz yapmak, kodu yazmak da önemli. Çünkü kendiniz yazdığınızda aslında bunu analiz ettiğinizde neyi nasıl çalıştığını, hangi fonksiyonu, ben zaten bunu aynı zamanda YouTube'da anlatmıştım. Nasıl olduğunu anlamış oluyorsunuz. Okay, so
Do you
I
mind if
also
I
want,
add, yeah, sorry for interruption. Do you
yeah,
mind if I add just one thing I wanted to mention? Forgot to mention in my
mhm,
response. When you are learning malware analysis and reverse engineering, you need to go into both directions at the same time. Learning the art of reverse engineering, which is a lot of work and a lot of you can read the secrets of reverse engineering for tutorials and stuff like that. And on the other side is also learning malware analysis itself from books like Learning Malware Analysis, Mastering Malware Analysis. Both books work really well together, and that could be the other side. So you're learning about their functionality, their techniques, the APIs names. Sometimes just reading that API's names and see their flow inside the malware can make you understand the full malware and understand what it does. If I see these four APIs calling after each other, I can assume the behavior, even if I don't know anything about reverse engineering really. Sometimes when I was teaching just reading the APIs for some people, and they can understand the whole malware, and they still haven't taught them anything about assembly yet. So that can be a full way to understand the malware. So you need to go with both directions at the same time, and both gonna help each other. That's my last advice.
yes. Yani şunu demeye çalışıyor. Aslında bahsettiğim gibi hem reverse engineer'i iyi bilmeniz lazım, hakim olmanız lazım. Hem de malware analizi hakim olmanız lazım. Çünkü siz mesela malware analizi yaptığınızda ama reverse engineering bilmediğiniz zaman malware analizini yapamazsınız. Keza reverse engineering hakkında bilgi sahipseniz malware analizinde API kısmında, hele Windows API kısmında mesela anlamazsınız. Çünkü adam kod yazmış. Siz reverse engineering mesela bilemiyorsunuz. Ama malware analizi hakkında bilgi sahipsiniz. Hele bu işte dinamik ve statik analizine geçiş yapacağız. Onu ben zaten sualimde var, zaten birkaç şey yazmıştım. Yani aslında kısaca şunu demek istiyorum. Hem reverse engineering bilmeniz lazım, testte mühendislik, hem de malware analizi bilmeniz lazım. Bu ikisini birleştirdiğinizde emin olun ki hem iyi bir malware analistçi olacaksınız, hem de reverse engineering kısmında usta olacaksınız. Thank you for your answer. So I'm gonna ask you the third question. But you already said that. So are there specific resources like that you would recommend for beginners?
Yeah. So Reversing the Secrets of Reverse Engineering, it's a really great book for reverse engineering. It's but super old.
Yes.
For the malware analysis, learning malware analysis and mastering malware analysis are really good. Both work together because learning malware analysis strength comes from the behavior analysis and something called memory forensics. The guy who wrote it is a really smart guy, and he is specialized in memory forensics specifically. So half of the book is almost about memory forensics. And as well the behavior and how to use code to automate some different things, Python scripts to automate some analysis. And that's really good about learning malware analysis. Mastering malware analysis covers more the code analysis part, really in depth, and different techniques, how the encryption works, how the network works, like so many different techniques. And as well, we cover in the Mastering Malware Analysis book is the other types of malware, like .NET malware, Java code, Visual Basic 6, the old ones, the different scripts, the iOS, IoT, all of these different things, Linux malware, everything. So we cover all of that in the other book. You don't need to go into that, but at least use the Windows side and use the Learning Malware Analysis together to learn that, to learn the malware analysis. Also, I recommend crackmeans.de. It's still alive. There's still an archive somewhere that you can come back into. And of course, Cyber Defenders, Hack in the Box, or others, if they do have malware analysis samples, start with the easiest ones and go from there. We do have also malware analysis course in Maltrack, but that is if you want to move into something else. And that's it. That's all my recommendations.
Evet. Aslında yine bahsettiği gibi Cyber Defender, işte Hack the Box, yine Try Hack Me ve Secret Reverse Engineering güzel kitaptan bahsediyor. Yani güzel ve kendisi zaten Mastering Malware Analysis kitabını yazmıştı ve detaylı bir şekilde yazıldığını söylüyor zaten. İşte Java olsun, işte öteki kodlar olsun. Network'un nasıl çalıştığını, işte IoT nasıl çalıştığını hepsini zaten kitapta bahsetmiş. Yani Mastering Malware Analysis yazdığınızda Google'a zaten çıkacak. Dediğim gibi ve kendisi dediği gibi aynı zamanda işte Crack Me sitesi halen aktif olduğunu söylüyor bize. Zaten ben 2 hafta önce de yapmıştım. Crack Me gayet güzel. Hani kendinizi geliştirmek istiyorsanız galiba Discord'da olması lazım. Discord'da hani bir şey yapamadığınız zaman veya anlamadığınızda community destek alabiliyorsunuz. Yani lafın kısası kitaptan Secrets of Reverse Engineering bakabilirsiniz. Mastering Malware Analysis bakabilirsiniz. İşte Memory Forensics'ten bahsetti. O gayet önemli olduğunu söylüyor kendisi. Ona bakabilirsiniz. Crack Me'ye bakabilirsiniz. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box zaten bahsetmiştik. Yani o konuda destek alabilirsiniz. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Hammer. So there is a specific question about programming language. So you told us that you need to learn about programming language, but is there a limitation? So like, how important is programming knowledge for someone aspiring to be a malware analyst?
That's a very good question. So there is multiple parts. The first part is that, well, how are you going to understand assembly or understand code without writing? You can, but you will have a little bit of a knowledge of how code works. Like when we teach assembly, for example, we say, okay, these 3 lines of code represents that in C code or in Bosido code or whatever the code is. And the syntax generally of how code works, something you need to understand, the basic thing. You don't need to write, but you need to understand. That is the first level, which can help you analyze a lot of malware, and you will be good to go. The next level is that sometimes you need to automate some things. So Python scripting, like 10 to like 50 lines of code in Python, can go a long way in malware analysis. It's not a must. Malware analysis doesn't really need that you know how to write code compared to other fields in cybersecurity. Sometimes it's not a must, but it is really helpful and it is recommended. Especially now for interviews, you might not be only doing malware analysis, but doing other stuff as well. You need to able to read the code and able to write small scripts. That is the most needed. Python is a really great language to start with. The second is PowerShell, because you're going to reverse PowerShell, and you might work in an incident response job while you are the malware analyst / incident handler. So PowerShell going to be really helpful in this case. So these 2 languages are really the best to learn. just the basic level.
So you also recommend that basic assembly knowledge will be great to learn about malware analysis, to learn about malware methodology, how it works, especially.
Yes, like
Okay.
basic language. At the end, like you don't have to write, but at least have to be able to read it and understand what it does. That is the level that is actually needed.
So I want to add something about the question. So okay, it's important to learn about how programming works, how for instance assembly works or a program works, but there are a lot of malware. Like I've seen a lot, as an example, which was written in C#, and others were written in C. I saw in assembly. So is it necessary to learn, C, C#, assembly, or is it important to learn only system programming language?
That's a very good question. It's there's two sides of it. Once you understand the syntax of one language, it kind of becomes easier to read other languages. Like I have never written code in PHP or Perl, but I analyzed malwares in this language or Auto-it or something like that. I can read and understand what this language kind of says. At the end of the day, you are more of a kind of a person who look for something specific. Like let's say I'm looking for the APIs that does something, or is he downloading a file? Is he trying to decrypt something? Is he trying, and a lot of words inside the code that can explain to you what he's trying to do. So you don't need to understand the language as more as you need to understand the flow of how languages generally work, and look for the kind of the keywords that can help you understand what's going on. And also it comes through experience. Like the first time I never, like I did write in C# very little, very, very little. So I don't have the experience so much in C#, but I can analyze .NET malware with no problems. I have written C++ before, but even before I write in C++, I can still understand somehow C++ code and understand what's going on. I can understand Java, even if I don't really write Java. So this is the thing that you're gonna need to learn, is how to look for keywords. It's like looking at logs, right? I can give you new logs for, I don't know, DNS logs from, I don't know, logarithm something, or whatever the tool is that does collect the DNS logs. You haven't seen these logs before, but you can find that there's a domain. There's suspicious domain.top, for example, and this is the IP. Now I understand there's something suspicious. The same thing you're going to do with programming. It's the same thing. You're going to look for the keywords. And once you learn that in your reverse engineering, the language is not a problem. But at the end of the day, one language is enough to make you understand the whole syntax of the world. Like, okay, this is the variables, what variable equals something, all of the different things. That's what you need to learn.
Evet, aslında kendisine şunu söylemiştim. Evet, yani spesifik bir yazım dil bilmek lazım mı? O da yok dedi. Sadece bir tane dil bilseniz senin için sintaks önemli. Çünkü zaten yazma yapmıyorsunuz, okuma yapıyorsunuz. Yani siz bir dosya analiz ettiğinizde onu okuyorsunuz ve okuduğunuzda hangi keyword kullandı, onu zaten anladığınızda zaten çok fazla, yani illa işte C# veya işte assembly'miş, işte C++'mış, işte ona bakayım buna bakayım mantığı yok. Yani siz bir mantığını anladığınızda, yani bir yazılım dili anladığınızda mesela işte Python'la yazılmış veya C ile yazılmış. Sen C++'a hakimsin. Sen şimdi C dosyasına işte analiz ettiğinde zaten o sintaks, yani keyword zaten belli edecek. Yani neyi nasıl kullandığını zaten dosyanın içerisinde mevcut. Reverse engineering bundan dolayı önemli. Yani evet, mesela PHP'den Perl'den bahsetmedi. Yani PHP Perl malware okumadığını işte veya yazmadığını söyledi zaten kendisi. Ama buradaki önemli olan şu, siz bir dile hakim, evet yani bir dile hakim olmanız lazım. Çünkü niye? Birçok farklı dosya gelecek. Birçok farklı şey hakim olmanız lazım. Zaten bu API olsun, işte C++, şu Windows'dan bahsetsek. Zaten bir dile hakimseniz, sistem dilden bahsetsem, zaten o keyword neyi nasıl yapıldığını anlamış oluyorsunuz. Yani burada çok dil değil de bir tane dil bilmeniz sizin için kafi olacak. Bundan dolayı hani sürekli zaten reverse engineering yaptığınızda zaten neyin nasıl olduğunu anlamış olacaksın, daha iyi anlamış olacaksınız. Bundan dolayı öyle bir cevap aldık. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Amer. There's another great question that I want to ask you. In your experience, what role does threat intelligence play in effective malware analysis?
In what role were threat intelligence really helpful in malware analysis?
Yeah, kinda.
Okay. I would say the opposite. Malware analysis is the source of threat hunting, of threat intelligence. Most of the threat intelligence feeds you see are basically based on malware activities. There's somebody who analyzes the malware, analyzes their activities, and then used this information to provide to people who don't analyze malware, or they don't have that malware, and tell them these are all the key ways you can find that malware. If you find any of this, you have the malware in your machine. When I was working in Symantec, our team was mainly creating threat intelligence feeds. We were doing blogs about, China attack, US and all of this stuff. But behind that, we also was creating the feeds for threat intelligence. So Symantec threat intelligence was based on malware analysis that was doing everything. How threat intelligence do help us? It does help just to see how teams evolve and how malware evolves and what are the trends and what's going on. Also, it helps us to link different attacks to one actor. There was a case where there was a North Korean attack on Sony when we saw specific malware. We analyzed them, we have all the information, and then we saw another attack that happened on a bank in Bangladesh. And we saw the similarities from IP, similarities between the malware, and that helps us understand that it's the same attacker who attacked both. And we're able to say, oh, Bangladesh attack was done by North Korea just because of the threat intelligence information, which we generated, and as well from the similarities between the malware. We wouldn't have found that if we are not producing threat intelligence and connecting things together. So threat intelligence does help in some way to connect attacks to specific actors and also understand, okay, this malware is a priority because we know that it's behind it a targeted attack, not just like an adware that posts some ads or someone randomly infected your machine. There's actually a team that targets you, and this is the name of the team, this is what they are after. So that's the only part where threat intelligence does help malware analysis.
So big companies that being affected by, like ransomware or normal malware. So of course threat intelligence play a role definitely. Kendisi semantikte çalıştığında I want to add something. So you're working at Symantec right now, or
no? I have my own company now.
Okay. Kendisi semantikte çalıştığında bir malware analizi yapılmıştı. Sony etrafında yapıldığını. Yani Kuzey Kore'den bahsediyor aslında ve biz bunu işte APT, Advanced Persistent Threat'ten bahsediyor büyük ihtimalle. Bu malware oluşturduğunu söylüyor. Şimdi Threat Intelligence dediğimizde istihbarat. Şimdi istihbaratta evet malware bizim için önemli. Çünkü biz malware analizi yaptığımızda hangi ülkeden ve kimden geldiğini daha iyi anlamış oluyorsunuz. Ve bunun için hani istihbaratta yani semantikte çalıştığında aslında burada istihbaratta aynı zamanda çalıştığını söylüyor işte ABD olsun, Çin olsun bunlardan bahsetmiş zaten. Ve semantikte işte Sony'ye işte malware veya saldırı yapıldığında istihbarat yöntemiyle hangi ülkeden geldiğini söylüyor. Mesela Bangladeş dedi. Bangladeş kimden geldiğini söylüyor o malware. Mesela Kuzey Kore olduğunu söylüyor. Evet. So, thank you for the answer, Mr. Hammer. So, there's an interesting question about polymorphic malware. So, how do you approach reverse engineering of more, sophisticated polymorphic malware?
Before I answer about that, it's less and less common to see this malware nowadays. The attackers have switched it from trying to be very sophisticated and hard to analyze, and invest the resources there is to kind of have a malware. It doesn't have to be so encrypted and so sophisticated, but the most important that it targets the person and they limit the target and they just grab the money. So the money became the main factor. I don't see that malware more often, but when we used to analyze, or when we saw this type of malware way in the past, the approach was most of the cases was polymorphic malware. They have a part where it is encrypted under long layers of encryptions, and this part is fixed, is still the same. The only changes is the encrypted code, is the encryption at the beginning. So the encryptor, let's say the code that decrypts the code, or decrypts the code, is the only one that changes every single time it affects a new machine or a new file or something new. But the actual code inside, it's fixed. There's different types of the malware, how they implement their encryption, but in the 90% of the cases, they decrypt themselves at some point in the memory. And it's fully decrypted there, and you can easily scan with Yara and find the malware out of there. In 90% of the cases, they have so many encryption layers that you cannot really go through them if you are basically doing the analysis yourself. But if you waited while the memory runs, while the whole encryption happens, or whole decryption happens, have a memory dump and scan the memory dump, you will mostly find it there. There's tools that did help. The emulators, for example, did emulate all the encryption decryption, waiting for the time when everything is decrypted. There's also kind of memory breakpoints where you are waiting for decrypted code to be executed, like something that is just has been modified, and now I want to make it, now they are executing that code, then you can find something suspicious. What I used to do as a trick is that I used to have all the memory in read-only, all supposed to be read-write in read-only, and anytime a malware tries to write in something that is read-execute, I change it to read-write and not to execute. Avoid that anything to become executable, and avoid any virtual protect or anything from making something executable. So any code, let's say a decryptor tries to modify any part in the memory that it tries to modify, it's not executable. So once it resumes the execution there, let's say it decrypts some parts in memory and then wants to execute there, there's going to be an error because this code is not executable. This area in memory is not executable. Then once I grab that error, I can say, oh, he's trying to execute a code that's already just modified. Let me make it as an execute, and then I can dump this memory and I can analyze it from there. So I make sure that there's nothing that is writable and executable at the same time when I am analyzing a malware. Make sure I have breakpoints on all the virtual protect, virtual lock, all of these different things to make sure that there is no writable memory that is executable at the same time, and that is where I can, catch something like that.
So it's actually useless to write a polymorphic malware because you can easily dump it through memory dump.
Yes.
Yani aslında polymorphic malware'in çok böyle sıkça rastlanmadığı malware olduğunu söylüyor. Çünkü aslında polymorphic malware dediğimizde, yani komplike bir malware yazdığınızda, kodu yazdığınızda aslında bunun işte threat tarafında, işte SOC olsun, işte istihbarat kısmı olsun veya malware analistçi olsun, zaten memory kısmına bakıyor. Yani memory kısmındaki protection'a mesela read, write, executable protection oluyor genelde ve memory protection'da mesela executable yoksa ve execute etmek istiyorsa zaten o kısmını kontrol etmiş oluyor. Yani lafın kısası, kodu yazıldığında, yani kod yazıldığı anda aslında belli bir katman mevcut. Katman. Yani mesela bir kısım encrypt edildi. Ondan sonra bir şey daha encrypt edildi. Aslında bu zaman kaybı. Çünkü niye? Siz memory dump yaptığınızda memory içerisinde decrypt edebiliyorsunuz. Yani memory dump yöntemiyle siz bunun executable olduğunu anlayabiliyorsunuz. Ondan dolayı polymorphic malware çok fazla kullanılmıyor. Evet. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Hammer. Also an interesting question. I think it's a great question. Could you explain the role of sandboxing in malware analysis and how it aids in understanding malicious behavior?
Very good question. It's for sandboxing. Well, there is a difference between sandbox and general behavioral analysis. There's two ways you can do it. You can run the malware in a sandbox, or you can run it in a virtual machine or real machine if you have, and actually monitor it with your own tools. So you are the one in control of everything. You are the one, behaving as a user, and you are also analyzing the malware. So there is a difference between both because a sandbox malware does not try to detect virtual machines as much, but they try to detect sandboxes, at least a lot of malware. Not the vast majority. The vast majority don't care, but there's some parts of that. Sandbox does help to give you a triage of what this malware might be doing, what domains, APIs it tries to connect to. Do we have a backup file? Do we have all the behavior, all the registry changes, everything? And you have all like a full report. And then with this full report, you have a kind of an idea of how to approach that malware. It's a good triage step that basically what we do is that every step in your analysis should answer some questions that you already have about this malware and ask new questions that you want to answer in the next phase of the analysis. The code analysis is the most intensive and the most time consuming, so you want to be targeted towards something specific. Let's say I want to know if this malware, how it communicates to the attacker. That's the only part I want to care about. I saw some information about it. It's HTTP. I saw these APIs. I saw that domain. I can just go to the code, look for these APIs. Boom, I have the analysis. I can analyze those 3-4 functions in the whole program, and I have a report about its malware communication, right? Or I just want to know like what it briefly does. And I run the malware in a sandbox, and then, okay, it tries to connect to the attacker. It runs this, it downloads this malware and executes it and then deletes itself. Here we go. We have the whole understanding. We don't need more than that. Of course, you need to verify things, but it's going to be easier now from there. So sandbox is the best step to answer some questions and speed up the process. Again, some malware will not give you anything, and you will know, okay, it understood it's running under sandbox. Let me do the behavior analysis another way. And then you can go with that. So it does help, but you cannot rely on it 100%.
So can you analyze this malware statically before running the malware itself?
You can go with the, let's say, like I always say, there's 4 phases, right? The first phase is the basic static analysis. You look at text, API names, if there are, if it's UBX, coded, just decoded, the basic things, and understand like what could be the malware is. And then the next step is the behavior analysis. So you run it in a sandbox or you run it in your own, and you monitor everything. And then the third step, okay, now I have the answers to some questions, and now I have some few questions left. Let's go to the code analysis and get the answers to that. And then you can do that after. You can do that at the beginning before you go to the sandboxing. But then after you analyze the code by yourself, like analyze the code itself, then the sandboxing is like going step backward. It's like, I already know what I'm going to expect. Can be helpful to see the communication have a backup file and use that backup file with your own analysis to decrypt what's going on. That also could be another idea. There's a company or someone who's doing something called the DFIR report, which they have a full fake company that has a sandbox. They run the malware into one machine, and then they monitor the attacker moving from one machine to another, trying to infect others, trying to download second and third phases of the malware, downloading additional modules. That's a good sandbox that you can understand, like the full attack spectrum, understand how the attacker, what he's looking for, understand the next modules of the attack as well. So that could be done after the code analysis for sure, and it can be really, really enriching your information. But that's a very advanced sandbox, a full company sandbox, basically.
So, okay, I understood, of course, about the malware analysis process. Evet, yani Sandbox hakkında şöyle söylüyor. Şimdi biz VirtualBox kullanıyoruz mesela. VirtualBox'ta mesela malware analizi yapmak istediğimizde genelde malware analizinde diyor ki sen VirtualBox kullanıyorsun. Şimdi VirtualBox kullandığımızda malware genelde çalışmıyor. Yani ben de bunu yaşadım. Mesela malware VirtualBox'a çalıştırmak istediğinizde genelde malware bunu çalışmaz. Çünkü öyle bir şey yazılmış ki şimdi malware'in içerisinde VirtualBox protection olduğu zaman, yani VirtualBox flag tetiklendiği anda zaten şey çalışmaz. Malware çalışmaz. Ondan dolayı biz önce zaten statik analizden bahsetmiştik. Statik analizi yaptığımızda işte adını sen söyle, statik analiz kısmını yaptığımızda zaten birçok şey bilgi sahibi olmuş oluyoruz. Ondan dolayı Sandbox aslında ikinci plana kalıyor. Zaten o Sandbox'ta bir şirketten bahsediyor. Birçok işte sahte şirket kullanmış. Orada sahte bir Sandbox kullanmış. Orada işte malware analiz kısmına baktığında orada tabii ki spesifik bir şekilde malware nasıl çalıştığını anlamış oluyor. Ama bu tabii ki daha bir üst seviye bir malware analizi olduğunu söylüyor. Evet. Thank you for the answer, Mr. Hammer. So, okay. What types of threats and vulnerabilities does the endpoint detection system aim to detect and mitigate? Malware.
I would say for EDRs, the endpoint detection responses, and all of these tools, they're really good in detecting like the tree of behavior, what's happening, like this malware, let's say, or this program, let's say Microsoft Word has open CMD, open PowerShell. When there is something that doesn't make sense in terms of behavior connected to the name of the program or the tree of process, EDRs are really good in detecting something suspicious here. So, as I said, Microsoft Word to PowerShell, or let's say you see, let's say, I don't know, a normal app, a known app that is connecting to malware.top, for example. All of these different known behaviors, if you go through the Metro attack, there's some known attacks, known techniques. It tries to detect them through all of these different ideas. The only thing that EDRs is lacking is really understanding of the memory structures and able to analyze memory in a more efficient way. But in terms of behavior, especially, let's say, for example, somebody is trying to add itself into autorun or like current version /run, which is a known autorun, and also connects to a specific domain that we don't know of, and as well is trying to download a program and execute CMD and this CMD executed other commands. All of these different things together, this is where EDRs excel, is that you can see all of this tree and you can do one query that finds all of these things together. If a program does this and that together and that, detects it. If a program does these two things together, detects it. And it really, really focuses more on the meter attack. More than vulnerabilities, more the meter attack tactics and techniques. The use of credentials, the network discovery, the RB scanners, all of these different behaviors and how it's being seen from inside the machine. It's really, really a great tool. The only thing it lacks is understanding the memory. Also detects process injection, it tries to detect process injection as much as it can. And it is more advanced version of Sysmon, if you have seen Sysmon. It's a really great tool to add if you're doing a malware analysis, you can have an EDR running and look from the whole analysis from the EDR perspective or from even Sysmon perspective and use that as an aid in your malware analysis as well.
Yani şunu demeye çalışıyor. ADS dediğimiz EDR sistemi aslında Endpoint Detection Response dediğimiz sistem şöyle çalışıyor. Şimdi Metro Attack dediğimiz bir indicator'ımız var. Şimdi biz EDR sistemi kullandığımızda, mesela Microsoft kullandığımızda, Microsoft'un kendi EDR sistemi kullandığımızda genelde dosyanın nasıl çalıştığını analiz etmiş oluyor. Ama memory kısmında anlamış, ya en büyük eksikliği zaten memory kısmı. Şimdi Metro Attack sitesine gittiğinizde Metro Attack'ta birçok atak var. Şimdi siz mesela EDR sistemde Microsoft kısmında mesela Microsoft'ta siz mesela kullanmak istediğinizde malware analizi yöntemiyle dosya analiz etmek istediğinizde EDR sistemin bunun hangi malware olduğunu söylüyor. Yani Metro Attack'ta belli bir kimliği mevcut. O kimliğiyle malware'in yani dosyanın nasıl çalıştığını söylüyor. Mesela network'sa network, işte DLL ise DLL, process'e process. Bunları anlatıyor bize. Ama memory içerisinde anlatamaz. Yani memory içerisindeki en büyük eksikliği zaten memory kısmını anlatamadığı için. Yani biz zaten öyle sormuştum. İşte threat ve vulnerability, yani zafiyet nasıl tespit ediyor EDR sistemi, nasıl engelliyor? EDS veya EDR dediğimiz olay aslında tamamen behavior, yani nasıl çalıştığını anlıyor. Nasıl çalıştığını anladığı anda zaten mitri ataktan bakmış oluyor, kimliği bakmış oluyor ve sana diyor ki işte network veya IoT veya DLL olduğunu söylüyor. Yani onun böyle bir zafiyet olduğunu söylüyor. Zafiyeti sana söylediği zaman da sen ona göre önlem almış oluyorsun. Thank you for the answer, Mr. Albert. Okay, so bir de Sysmon'dan bahsetmişti. Windows kısmında analiz yapmak istediğinizde Sysmon ben de kullanıyorum. System Monitor olması lazım. System Monitor yaptığınızda onu siz Windows'a ekliyorsunuz ve işte malware'in nasıl çalıştığını Sysmon'dan anlayabilirsiniz. Okay. Okay, so we talked about the importance of programming language. We talked about about EDR systems. Do we have another question about maybe reverse engineering? Okay, so how do you approach analyzing binary executable in reverse engineering? It doesn't matter. It could be L file, it could be X file. So what's the approach?
Well, the first thing is first understand what is the type of it. If it's a .NET, if it's an exe, it's a normal thing. That is the first idea. The second thing, is it encrypted, or is it, decrypted? If it's encrypted, happy days. I go first with the basic static analysis, which try to get as many texts as I can, APIs, whatever. If I'm using .NET, then I would like to know all the different commands it uses, libraries it uses. Whatever the language is, that's what I try to do, or understand what all the commands, and then can give me a clear idea of where I want to go. Before actually I go to all of the steps, there's one thing I forgot to mention, is that I need to understand what questions I need to answer. A lot of people miss that, especially when they are doing reverse engineering amateurish way, or when they are in a company. In a company, you have a deadline and you have questions you want to answer. Sometimes this question is just what domains it connects to, and that's it. They don't want more information. So you need to really just look into that questions throughout your whole analysis. I start with the easiest one, the basic static analysis, then the behavior analysis. If you have a sandbox, great. If you don't, that's fine. Memory forensics is also very helpful in Sysmon with process monitor, something like that. Process monitor, Sysmon, memory forensics at the end, and get some information about what's going on. And also have the dump from the memory and go through the text again, the static analysis again, and look if there's something I can detect from there, if it was encrypted or something like that. Then after that, I go into the code analysis. If it's encrypted, I go mostly with the code, with the dynamic code analysis, like Oli debugger, decrypt it, have a dump of it, and then analyze it in IDA. I like IDA Pro, and I like the idea of static code analysis, or like the code analysis in a kind of on desk, because it does, with IDA, it has something more than Oli debugger, which is the ability to document. Everything you write there stays there in your IDB file or IS64. So you document the whole malware. I mostly go through, like, if I have specific questions I need to answer, or specific APIs I need more investigation, I use them as my way to dive into the code. So it's like, okay, let me look at any call to this specific API. Let's say HTTP connect. Then I find them, and then I go with one step before. Who tries to connect, what he does after he connects, or one step forward. It's like, okay, he connects, what's next? What's the next API he's using? What are the domains? So I can go a few steps back until I found, let's say, a function that decrypts a string, which is the name of the domain. Then I try, okay, can I decrypt it by myself? Can I just run this part of the code and just get to the next step and find the domain, and then go through that process? That's one way I go. Or which I don't really say it's always a great idea, but it kind of works sometimes with me, is that I go through all the functions in IDA Pro, if they are not like 500, if they are like 100, 200, go to everyone and try to name them the fastest name I can find. Like, in the fast way, I can analyze this function and say, okay, that sounds like a decryptor. That sounds like doing some string stuff. That seems like it's doing encryption. This sounds like it's opening a process. Once you start renaming everything, Somehow the code lights up and it's like, okay, I see this function now calls to this some string stuff, then connect to the internet, then some decrypt stuff, then some dashboard of multiple choices. Every one of them is doing something different, like opening a file, deleting file, opening a process, creating a, and then it's do some connect internet, send receive thing, and then it closes. Sounds like this is the whole process of communicating to the common control server, doing the commands, and then, and then sends the response back. I can now dive into that part. You start to have a kind of an idea on the malware when you start renaming everything, even to the closest name. You're going to rename them again, it's not a problem, but now you have an idea of what is this code looks like it's doing. And then you can go from there. So this is one idea that I use as well in my analysis. It does help a lot.
So did you use Cutter, or you mentioned about IDA Pro, I guess, for reverse engineering? Have you ever used Cutter or Radar 2?
Not really. I haven't used them. I have used Ghidra for time to time, but I haven't used the other tools. No, I prefer IDA on literally everything.
So we should actually focus on answering those questions about file. So we need to inform ourselves to get those answers before analyzing the file, right?
Like the thing is that this should be your goal. Like the questions you have at the beginning should be your main goal. Once you know that these are the questions you need to answer, you need to be laser focused to them and don't try to analyze everything. We tend to, because we learn first before we work in a company, we tend to want to analyze everything because, well, we want to understand the whole malware and we want to have a big report. But at work, you don't really have the luxury of doing so. You just need to answer the most important question, and that's it. Sometimes you just want a IR rule. That's it. Just create a IR rule, man. So it's like, okay, can I get 5 samples of that? Doesn't matter what the malware does. Just have some function that repeats in all of them. Boom, I have a IR rule. So, yeah.
Yani aslında şunu demeye çalışıyor. Öncelikle analiz yapmadan önce kendi kendinize düşünmeniz lazım. Ya ben bu dosyayı analiz edeceğim de neye dikkat etmen lazım? Şimdi ben bu dosyayı mesela analiz ettiğimde, mesela kod analizi yaptığımda veya statik dinamik bir şekilde analiz yapmak istediğimde neyi bulacağımı bilemem. O zaman diyeceğiz ki biz dosya işte Windows olsun, işte ne olsun, .NET olsun mesela, .NET'de yazmış mesela. Oradaki fonksiyonları siz bilemediğinizde, yani neyi nasıl çalıştığını bilemediğinizde siz istediğiniz kadar reverse engineering yapın. Ne yaptığını bilemediğinizde siz bir şey olmaz, bir sonucu elde edemezsiniz. Yani önce biz dediği gibi önce statik analizi yapıp önce dosya hakkında bilgi sahibi olmamız lazım. Bilgi sahibi olduğumuzda o zaman yavaş yavaş kod analizine geçmemiz lazım. Yani biz kod analizi hemen geçtiğimizde önce temel bilgiyi sahip olmamız lazım. Şimdi biz temel bilgiyi sahip olamadığımızda veya alamadığımızda biz dediğim gibi istediğimiz kadar reverse engineering yapalım. Sonuç bulamazsınız. Yani biz öncelikle dosyayı analiz etmeden öncelikle şu sual sormamız lazım. Ben ne için yapacağım? Kimin için yapacağım? Hedefim ne? Bunlara siz dikkate aldığınızda o zaman siz dosya analizi yapacaksınız. Mesela Gihidra'dan bahsetti. Yani decompiler'dan bahsetti. Gihidra zaten National Security Agency tarafından yazılan bir framework. Şimdi bu dediğim gibi kod analiz kısmında önce decompile edersiniz. Decompile edildiğinde baktığınız işte statik analizinde bir şey çıkmadı. Ne yaparsınız? Dinamik kısmına geçersiniz. Aslında bundan bahsetti. Zaten ben bunu sürekli söylüyordum size. Öncelikle kendinize şu sual sormanız lazım. Ne için, kimin için ve ne yapmam lazım? Hedefim ne? Hangi fonksiyon ne için çalışacak? Bunu yaptığınızda o zaman siz kod analizine geçiş yapacaksınız. İşte Github mı kullanacaksınız, IDE mi kullanacaksınız? Öyle geçiş yapmış olacaksınız. Thank you for the answer. So I would also like to answer, also, I also have a question about machine learning. Maybe if you don't mind, I want to ask that. So how is machine learning being integrated into reverse engineering process? Maybe if
Yeah. there's little to do now with the reverse engineering. I think it can be really, really helpful, but there's still not enough tools in that. Or I think there's somehow it feels like with malware analysis specifically, malware detection gets the most advanced tools. The malware analysis gets the old type of tools. It does seem that this translates into that. Like we could have ChatGPT AI takes some assembly, gets you some information, gives you some ideas. We don't have that yet. Maybe that's a great business idea, but it just there is not a lot of malware analysts that companies want to really create an amazing product to, compared to a lot of customers who want to detect malware. Malware data science actually, or the analysis. There is a book called Malware Data Science. That's why I mentioned it. A really great book in how to use malware analysis to detect and actually find variants of similar. Like, okay, I have a malware here. I have other samples. Are they really the same family or not? Or maybe an evolved family of the same malware. I can take the memory dump. I can take the file on disk and see how similar they are. You can take also kind of, let's say, you run the malware behavior analysis, take Prosmon results, it's XML, take the Sysmon, it's another XML, and merge these files. Find that with another malware with clean apps so it can remove all the noise, and then you can have, okay, that sounds like it does this activities. It sounds like it's matching with malware that is matching more with malware than with something clean. Also, you can detect some specific behavior or specific meta attack out of that using machine learning. It does have a big space. It's not yet there with a lot of tools apart from like detection stuff more than other things. Like it's just in detections mostly, which is great, but it can be used a lot in malware analysis. And I think there is a big space with that if people just jump into that. With the behavior analysis, a great combination with the static code analysis or basic static analysis. It's great with the API names. You can find a lot of information just looking at the API names and the flow of how these APIs work. There is a lot of potential. I don't see it being implemented yet, at least as far as I know.
So does VirusTotal use machine learning or
Which
such algorithm? VirusTotal.
VirusTotal, I don't remember if it does really, but I don't know. I don't remember. I don't have the premium since quite a long time, so there's probably is gonna be, but still, like VirusTotal or any Dotrano, any of these tools, is you don't submit the sample there until you really want the attacker to know you have submitted his sample, right? Because they monitor it on the other side. So you don't really submit it. You don't want to give your sample away. So it will be your last step, or somebody who's not a malware analyst gonna do that. But for malware analysts, you want something offline. There's nothing offline that's still there, or something that can aid them without giving away all the information to the cloud. That's still not there yet.
So of course, important to investigate your malware in your local environment instead of publicly using publicly. So most people do use or drop their own malware or written malware into VirusTotal. But I'm always saying to these people, don't use it, because there are a lot of vendors and antivirus like Kaspersky and Norton. They also that malware, and like the hash of the malware, the identity of the. So I think it's useful useful to use open source let's say like VirusTotal. Because open sources, I'm not sure, but they don't share malware to other antivirus like Kaspersky and Norton, but VirusTotal do that. Thank you for the answer. So I'm going to explain in Turkish. Machine learning, yani makineden bahsediyor aslında. Machine learning, reverse engineering prosesi çok fazla kullanılmıyor. Yani halen yok. Şimdi zaten ne bahsetmişti? Enidat Run'dan bahsetmişti. VirusTotal'dan bahsetmişti. Şimdi VirusTotal'ı ben genelde kullanıyorum. VirusTotal mesela hem community kısmı var hem de premium kısmı var. Premium kısmını machine learning kullandığını bilmiyor. Ama şunu bilmemiz lazım. Şimdi mesela birçok şirket istiyor. Mesela malware'ı analiz etmek için birçok şeye oluşturmamız lazım. İşte proje olsun, başka bir şey olsun. Bunu sürekli bunu geliştirmemiz lazım. Ve yani kısacası machine learning reverse engineering prosesinde şu an kullanılmıyor. Yani şu an baktığımızda zaten ben de çok machine learning, reverse engineering kısmında çok olduğunu düşünmüyorum. Aslında bundan bahsetti. Yani machine learning işte entegrasyondan bahsetmek istediğimizde reverse engineering yani teslim mühendislikte sıkça kullanılmıyor. Bir de şunu söyledi zaten. Mesela bir malware yazdınız. Malware yazdığınızda ben zaten bunu söylemiştim. Siz bunu virus soğutu attığınızda bunu zaten başka antivirüs işte Norton, Kaspersky, işte McAfee bunlar zaten bu malware senin atmış olduğun malware zaten analiz ettiği için yani senin şu an bir şey bypass etmek istediğin zaman bunu yapamazsın. Çünkü niye? Zaten bilindik bir hash oluyor artık. Yani bir database'e saklanıyor bu. Ondan dolayı biz ne yapıyoruz? Virus source değil de mesela open source yani açık kaynaklı virus Toto gibi ama antivirüs gibi biz bunu dosyamızı aklamaya çalışıyoruz. Çünkü biz niye? Biz lokalde çalışmak istediğimizde. Şimdi public yaptığımızda herkese açık olacak. Yani kendi yazdığımız dosyayı biz virus soğutu attığımızda biz bunu herkese paylaştığımız için bu aslında iyi bir şey değil. Lokalde çalıştırmak istiyorsunuz veya işte bir şey bypass etmek istiyorsunuz. Öncelikle open source kullanmanız yani birçok antivirüse çalışmaktan ziyade tek bir antivirüs çalışması sizin için daha mantıklı olacak. Evet. Zaten Malware Data Science book'u tavsiye ediyor. Yani kitabı tavsiye ediyor. So you recommend Malware Data Science, I guess.
Yeah, it's a
Malware
great.
Data Science book. Yeah, it's a great book. Malware Data Science'ı tavsiye ediyor. Yani ona bakın lütfen. So, let's see. Thank you for the answer, by the way. So I want to actually ask the last question about reverse engineering, if you don't mind.
True.
What are some commonly used tools for reverse engineering software? It could be in Windows or Linux or Mac. So yeah.
Well, the most common is, of course, IDA Pro and x64 debugger. Now, only debugger is a bit old. x64 debugger is a good one. Ghidra is now getting more and more common. DNSpy for .NET. Process monitor for monitoring. I didn't find a good API monitor, but that's probably in the list. What else? I have a big list. Probably I will share with you a list as well, but I'm trying to remember from my mind. What else? Tell me something. And
Maybe Detect Easy.
yeah, that's a good one.
Detect Easy.
Yeah. BID. That's a really great tool. B Studio now. It's a tool that's taking over, and it's a great tool as well. That's for B editors, with behavior, with process.
So all tools are being used for static analysis, right? Such as Detect Easy, Pastudio, but you taught us about OD debugger and x64 debugger is for more dynamically, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. And also DNSpy for the .NET. It's really, really good. What else? We have, of course, you're going to use Wireshark at some point. There's also FakeNet, which simulates the internet. It's a really great tool. I use it a lot. What else? Let's try to think. There's Oily VBA, which works great with macros, with Windows macros, all the types of macros. There is, yeah, this is most of the tools in my head, I think. Sysmon, you're going to use it, and Volatility, you're going to use it, Volatility 3 specifically. You're going to use them a lot. Dumbit, which dumps the memory, so you can use that with some people like Windows Debugger. I never liked it, but some people do. So that's for them. Yeah, that's what's on top of my head, I guess. I will get some ideas a bit later. I was like, I should have mentioned that. But yeah, if I will share everything with you once I have.
Yani şunu diyor aslında, statik analizinde zaten Directvies'den bahsetmiştik. Only Debugger zaten eski olduğu için çok fazla kullanılmıyor. Mesela 32 bit 64 debugger var mesela Windows'da kullanılıyor. Mesela 32 bit olan bir dosyayı 32 bit atıyorsun. x32 dbc'ye atıyorsunuz. 64 bit olan da x64 dbg'ye atıyorsunuz. Aslında bunlar çok iyi. Aynı zamanda PES Studio'dan bahsetti. Portable Executable Studio'dan bahsetti. Yani siz dosyaya attığınızda tüm zaten VirusSource olsun, işte Processor olsun, DLL olsun hepsi zaten gösteriyor. Yani buna tamamen statik analizi yapmak istediğimizde yani dosyayı çalıştırmadan önce biz ne yapıyoruz mesela? Belli bir statik analizi hani bahsetmiştim. Dosyayı çalıştırmadan önce belli bir statik analizi yapıyorduk. Statik analizinde hangi tool kullanıyoruz? İşte DirectEasy söyledi, PES Studio söyledi. ODBug'ı kullanılıyor ama eski olduğunu söyledi zaten. PID tool mesela gayet güzel. Ondan sonra işte Memory Dump'tan bahsetti. FakeNet'ten bahsetti. Procmon'dan bahsetti. Sysmon'dan bahsetti. Zaten şöyle Flare kullanıyoruz mesela. So normally when I use or my own tool, so I'm creating my own tool to to analyze malware to so as to improve myself. For instance, a year ago I used to use Flare VM, Flare virtual machine, but I didn't like it because it uses 70, 80, I don't know, 70 or 80, I'm not sure, but it uses a lot of memory space. So that's yeah, memory disk. And so that's the reason why I switched to normal Windows. So I only use most common tools which can be used for malware analysis or reverse engineering, or like you said, it's memory dump or static analysis, dynamic analysis. So I don't use really Flare VM because it uses a lot of a lot of memory space. So yeah, it's just my path, my path to analyze it. Yani ben zaten kendi şeyimi söyledim. Flare VM kullanmıyorum çünkü 70 GB alıyor. Şimdi aklıma geldi. 78 GB alıyor. Ve bundan dolayı ben Flare kullanmıyorum. Yani basit bir Windows kullanıyorum. Windows'ta mesela ben dosya analiz etmek istediğimde hangisi benim için lazımsa so I use retoolkit, right? I use retoolkit. It's a toolkit where you can use all malware tools to be analyzed. About which you mentioned, OLE Debugger, DetectEasy, Pastidio, all those tools are integrated in that toolkit. So it's more suitable for me. It's more suitable for me. Yani retoolkit kullanıyorum. Retoolkit'te zaten tüm bahsettiğim tool'u yani 7-8 GB kullanıyor zaten. Bunu kullanmanızı tavsiye ederim açıkçası. Flare çünkü çok fazla şey kullanıyor. Memory kullanıyor. Yani söyleyeceğim bu kadar bence. Yeah, so I think this was the last question. So yeah, really, thank you so much for being here, and it was truly enjoyable and informative to hear about your experiences and learn. I learned a lot of some great techniques, and I think others also did. So maybe it could be the last question of mine. Do you have any motivation codes for people who tend to lose their motivation rapidly, especially when engaging in malware analysis?
That's a very good question, actually. There is multiple things. First is to join a community of people who do the same thing. And this is really helps you because you it becomes with a friendship, I have friends who are doing that. We are talking we have a weekly meeting every week, for example. Just come together. We will talk about what we have analyzed, what problems we have faced. We look at each other's malware, and that creates a kind of motivation to always present something in the next meeting. To not be, oh, I was very lazy and I was just eating Doritos all the week. there's something gonna say, so you have to push to that, and you feel you have a status somehow. Why people like so much the games, the multiplier games, is because they can rank in their status and they can do more work and get rewarded. So it's the same thing you can have if you have this community. That is the first thing. Second thing, what I do recommend, what I do also do, is that having a mentor, somebody who knows how to analyze malware, and you always can ask him questions, get some answers. You have to do all the work you can do, but then you have one day when you come, this is I have done everything. Can you give me a guidance? And he's like, okay, have you tried this idea? Have you tried that idea? Sometimes it could be in a company. When I was working in Semantic as well, I had somebody who was senior, and somebody who was even more senior than that. And if I have any troubles, I'm just gonna go up there, and they're gonna find an answer. I'm sure of that. So that's you're gonna find in jobs, especially outside of Middle East. Sometimes you will have it better, but even in Middle East, I think in Turkey you can find, and as well, when you are joining a meeting, weekly meeting, you can find people who are more advanced than you, and they can be a few steps ahead of you, and they just can help you, or joining a program where there is a mentor who can help you. That's also another option.
Yes, definitely. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, so when I want to say about myself, when I lose my motivation, just I just watch videos about the people who are experts in that field, like a cyber security community, or like Discord or YouTube, or maybe Reddit. I think it's also educational, because I think that you can find the answers if you just type on Google. So maybe that can also be in question. Do you think that all the questions can be found on Google? Can you just find it, or should you ask to senior colleagues?
I tend to see in malware analysis not really the case, especially that malware analysis and reverse engineering is a bit of an art. So it's like how I can analyze a malware that has this API, but then once I run this API, something happens that doesn't really, I don't know what's going on. And then after that, like you cannot really describe the problem to Google enough, and there's no enough resources that are in a video format that can show you, oh, this is when that happens. That is one problem. Even if you find answers to a lot of problems, you miss sometimes the expertise of somebody who's behind you, because there is some experience that is like, okay, if you see this, assume that is that. That's the easiest way to do it. Or once you see that, okay, go here and do this step, for example. And then it's like, oh, that is really a great technique. I wish there's somebody else told me that technique. There was one technique, for example, I was teaching to my students, which is rather than you're running the malware from up down and you get lost in some parts and don't know what's going on, set a breakpoint on an API far, far away, and then follow with the return address in every single, like all the returns address one by one in the stack. Like go, steps backward. There's a return address and the push EBP, and then the return address and push EBP. They call the call stack. Just go back and find where it started, and then the whole flow you can understand from there, and you can understand where you have missed the point between you are getting lost and between the thing that the disaster had already happened. And then you can find the beginning of the malware, find the beginning of some actions. Also use that in a way to detect or to go through all the calls, all the polymorphic malwares. Like, okay, just put a breakpoint on all the APIs that are really important, that's surely going to run in the malware. And then once they happen, reverse back and find what was the entry point. Just follow the call stack until you find the beginning.
Yes.
So that's a technique. Maybe I got it from experience, but for somebody else, he's gonna not find it in Google. He's gonna find it from experience, or somebody else gonna tell him, do this step, do that technique. That's a better option. So that's where I find finding a person who's senior or somebody has the expertise can give you some insights you have never thought, and can speed up the process so much. One advice can like boom, a big jump. That's how I see it myself.
Yes, in my learning process, I used to use my own tools, as I mentioned. I just wrote my code and I debug it, by using GDP. And like by learning malware analysis, I just wrote my own malware, like the DLL injection, or I used to use a lot of Windows API to implement into my code. And so I compile it, and then I was trying to decompile and trying to disassembly my code to being able to understand my code itself. So I'm always teaching and saying to my students. So when you want to analyze a malware, it's better to create your own code, like simple printf hello world. You can just compile it, and you can just drop to GDP to being able to understand your code, what it does. All these functions like entry points, main, ini function, fini function, to have better understanding about your code, to have better understanding about how it looks like. So of course you are not able to find it easily on Google. You should ask to senior people how it works, because they are expertise in that field. So I just definitely agreeing with that. Yeah, so I think it's all. As I mentioned, thanks so much for being here. I'm also planning to invite more experts, hopefully in fields related to cybersecurity and mathematics. For people who can understand Turkish and English, you can just subscribe to my Medium page, Medium blog, where I share content on reverse engineering and exploitation phases. For bilingual individuals, they can just follow my Medium. And for people who can only understand Turkish, they can just follow me on YouTube. And yeah, I think it's all. Thanks so much, Mr. Amer. It was really enjoyable and educational. Yeah, I think I'm done.
Awesome. And it was really, really enjoyable for me. And also hearing the Turkish accent, it's also fun. My parents both live in Turkey. So
Yeah.
my father's learning Turkish since quite some time, and he loves Turkey a lot. We have all the Turkish series now. So it's good to be helping the community. And I'm looking forward. Maybe I will see you in person. We'll have something in person one day.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, I guess. Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm done.
Awesome. Looking forward to see you live, and I will share with you all the resources. I already send you some things. You can add that in the resources in the YouTube or in LinkedIn for people.
Yes, definitely.
And guys, don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to my channel. Of course, I'm planning to share more content about exploitation of binary exploitation, reverse engineering. Definitely, if you're interested. Of course, for people who are Turkish, people who only speak or understand English, they might not be able to understand English, Turkish well. So yeah, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my blog post.
Awesome. Lovely.